Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most profound philosophers, wasn't known for sugar-coating reality. He wasn't interested in comforting people with easy lies or illusions. Instead, Nietzsche wanted you to face life as it truly is, with all its rawness, discomfort, and complexity. Among his most controversial and illuminating ideas is the revelation that many of the connections we pursue, the bonds we fight so hard to form and keep, particularly in romantic relationships, are often less about genuine love and more about power. Nietzsche warned that beneath the sweet words, romantic gestures, and promises of eternal devotion lies an undercurrent, an innate human desire for power and dominance. She wants power, not love. These words are brutally honest, challenging to hear, but critical to understand. Nietzsche wasn't making a shallow claim about manipulation or deceit. He was digging deeper into the human psyche, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable truth that love itself is often entangled with the quest for control. We assume relationships are about connection, compassion, partnership, and affection, yet hidden beneath the surface is frequently an unconscious or conscious struggle for leverage, validation, and ultimately, power. Nietzsche believed humans were fundamentally driven by what he termed the will to power, the urge to assert oneself, to impose one's reality onto others, and to control one's environment, not necessarily out of cruelty, but as a fundamental part of our psychological makeup. Power is more than physical dominance or political strength. It manifests subtly in emotional control, social influence, self-esteem, validation, or the ability to make another person dependent. According to Nietzsche, even love, a concept often idealized as selfless and pure, is not exempt from this inherent will to power. When Nietzsche states, "She wants power, not love," he's not singling out a particular gender as uniquely manipulative or malicious. Rather, he's illuminating a universal truth. People often pursue relationships to satisfy their hidden desire for influence, validation, and dominance. We don't merely want affection. We crave someone who affirms our worth, who makes us feel powerful through their need, their admiration, or their submission. This truth can be unsettling because it forces us to question our deepest motives. When we claim to love someone, are we truly loving them for who they are, or are we attracted primarily to how they make us feel, how they elevate our self-worth, or how they contribute to our personal power? In modern dating culture, this idea is profoundly evident. Consider the dynamics at play. The person who texts back slower holds more leverage. The one who appears least emotionally invested wields more influence. The partner who expresses fewer emotions often ends up having greater control over the relationship's emotional landscape. Nietzsche would argue that these are not simply modern dating games, but manifestations of a timeless truth. Relationships are inherently about power, and those who master their emotions have the upper hand. Yet, why do we crave power so much in love? Nietzsche suggested it's because power equates to safety and freedom. When someone else relies on you, values your approval, or depends on your affection, you hold security in that connection. You're less likely to be abandoned, rejected, or humiliated. Having power in a relationship isn't merely about ego. It's about survival. It's an instinctive mechanism that protects us from vulnerability. Nietzsche observed that humans fear vulnerability more than anything because vulnerability exposes us to emotional annihilation. To love without seeking power, to fully open your heart without reservation, is terrifying because it leaves you defenseless. Think about moments when you fell deeply in love. Initially, it feels exhilarating. Life becomes vibrant, passion surges, everything seems intense and meaningful. Yet, inevitably, fear creeps in. What if they leave me? What if they change their mind? What if they stop loving me? This fear prompts the subconscious desire for control. You start to subtly manipulate circumstances or interactions to reassure yourself, to gain power over the unknown. Maybe you withdraw slightly to test their commitment. Perhaps you show affection strategically to reinforce their dependence. This subtle shift from pure, unconditional love to power-seeking behaviors is precisely what Nietzsche warned us about. When Nietzsche famously stated, "Whatever is done for love always occurs beyond good and evil," he exposed another layer to this complexity. Love's desire for power can compel people to do morally ambiguous things: lying, betrayal, manipulation, emotional withholding, things they'd otherwise condemn. It's as if love grants moral permission to pursue dominance. Nietzsche is forcing you to see love's duality, its ability to inspire profound beauty and terrifying cruelty, to build a relationship or tear someone apart. Consider the rise of the power couple phenomenon today. This idea doesn't simply reflect ambition, it reflects how deeply intertwined love has become with power. A power couple implies two individuals who magnify each other's social influence, financial strength, and status. Nietzsche would argue that beneath the surface of mutual admiration and respect is the will to power operating in harmony. Two powerful individuals joining forces to enhance each other's dominance. Love becomes an engine for mutual reinforcement of strength, prestige, and influence. Nietzsche also predicted what happens when power dynamics are unbalanced. He warned that unequal power would eventually breed resentment. If one partner holds excessive emotional or practical power, the other partner secretly suffers. That suffering, he warned, breeds bitterness, passive aggression, and emotional toxicity. A partner who feels powerless might withdraw emotionally, lash out passively, or eventually seek ways to reclaim their own power, often by undermining the relationship. Nietzsche's insight here is crucial. If you seek power excessively in love, you risk destroying it entirely. The healthiest relationships acknowledge the reality of power, yet consciously choose balance and mutual respect over ruthless dominance. In contemporary culture, social media amplifies Nietzsche's observation dramatically. Relationships have become performances, carefully curated displays of romantic gestures, emotional connection, and idealized images of love. But beneath the filters and smiles lies an insidious pursuit of validation. Likes, comments, and shares aren't simply benign reactions, they're subtle reinforcements of power. Social media allows individuals to display their romantic dominance, often unintentionally signaling to others their desirability and worthiness. Love is broadcasted publicly to solidify the social and emotional power of one or both partners. Nietzsche's words resonate loudly today because he warned about the inherent danger in misunderstanding what we really want. "She wants power, not love," isn't a condemnation, but a wake-up call. It's a warning about being honest with yourself, about recognizing your motivations clearly, and about being courageous enough to face the uncomfortable truths lurking beneath your romantic gestures. Nietzsche challenges you to ask yourself openly, do you genuinely want love, or are you seeking power and validation disguised as affection? This first section was Nietzsche's reality check, his raw, uncomfortable truth. He stripped away illusions, leaving us with a clear understanding that love isn't pure, selfless, or simple. It's complex, entangled with desires for power, control, and self-validation. It's beautiful yet ruthless, inspiring yet dangerous. In part 2, we'll take this realization even further. Nietzsche didn't leave us in despair. Instead, he offered a path forward, a philosophy that helps us transcend our instinctive craving for power. He offered insight into how true, meaningful love, beyond manipulation and ego, could be achieved. Stay tuned. Because Nietzsche's insights don't just illuminate the hidden struggles within relationships, they give you the tools to free yourself from them. Understanding Nietzsche is about reclaiming your emotional autonomy, mastering your impulses, and ultimately building connections not rooted in power, but in genuine authenticity and mutual respect. And remember, Nietzsche didn't warn you to destroy your hope. He warned you so you could see clearly, understand fully, and love truthfully. In Part 1, Nietzsche gave us a brutally honest warning. Beneath our quest for love lies an instinctual craving for power, control, and validation. He stripped away the romantic illusions we often cling to, forcing us to see relationships not just through a lens of passion, but through the often uncomfortable truth of human nature. But Nietzsche wasn't merely a pessimist tearing down our idealism. Instead, his philosophy aimed to liberate us, to free us from unconscious drives and self-deception, giving us the courage to build something real, something lasting. Nietzsche's wisdom doesn't stop at recognizing our hidden desire for power. His real gift was guiding us to transcend it. Nietzsche believed power itself wasn't inherently negative. It was how we wielded it that defined us. He argued for embracing our natural drive for power, not by dominating others, but by conquering ourselves. Nietzsche wanted you to turn your innate desire for control inward, using your will to power for self-mastery rather than manipulation. Self-mastery, according to Nietzsche, means becoming fully aware of your own impulses, emotions, insecurities, and motives. Most of us never truly examine why we do what we do, especially in love. We act on instinct, guided by unconscious fears and desires. Nietzsche demands more from us. He challenges us to look deeper, to question our every impulse, and confront what truly drives our choices. When you can honestly acknowledge your inner craving for power and validation, you reclaim control over it. You stop becoming a slave to hidden desires and instead become a master of your emotions. Nietzsche famously said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." In other words, if you fail to control your own desires, insecurities, and emotions, they will inevitably control you, or someone else will. You'll become dependent on others for validation, affirmation, or emotional security. Your relationships will remain transactional and power-driven. But if you master yourself, if you develop the discipline to resist emotional impulses, you gain authentic freedom. You become emotionally autonomous, no longer needing power or validation from another person to feel complete. This is where true love becomes possible. Nietzsche believed authentic love isn't about finding someone to control or someone who gives you power. It's about connecting deeply and honestly with someone, free from manipulation or hidden agendas. Authentic love occurs only when two self-aware individuals, secure in their own emotional independence, willingly share themselves with vulnerability and trust. Nietzsche saw vulnerability not as weakness, but as a courageous choice, one only possible when you've mastered your fear of rejection or abandonment. Yet achieving such love isn't easy, and Nietzsche knew this better than anyone. He described it as a process of self-overcoming, of continually confronting your own flaws, limitations, and insecurities, and choosing growth over comfort. Love built on self-overcoming is resilient because it's not fragile, not threatened by temporary struggles for dominance. Both individuals understand their own internal dynamics, so power struggles become unnecessary. Instead, conflicts become opportunities for deeper understanding, not silent battles for dominance. Nietzsche also cautioned us about something even more dangerous than pursuing power: resentment. He warned about the destructive nature of resentment, an emotion he called ressentiment, born from feeling powerless, unworthy, or rejected. When we feel deprived of love, respect, or power, resentment festers, poisoning relationships from within. A resentful person doesn't merely suffer, they secretly seek revenge, unconsciously sabotaging connections, spreading emotional toxicity. Nietzsche urged us to reject resentment at all costs, to forgive not out of weakness, but to preserve our own strength and freedom. To truly free yourself from the power games of love, Nietzsche advises embracing solitude as a path to strength. He claimed, "When we are alone and quiet, we fear nothing." Solitude, Nietzsche argues, is necessary for cultivating self-awareness, clarity, and emotional independence. Those who fear solitude will always remain dependent, vulnerable to manipulation, forever trapped in cycles of seeking external validation. But those who embrace solitude learn to find power within themselves. They don't fear loneliness because they understand themselves deeply and fully. When they choose love, it's not from fear, insecurity, or dependence, but from genuine desire and respect. Nietzsche's ideal love relationship thus emerges clearly, a partnership between two powerful, self-aware individuals who don't need each other for validation or control, but who freely choose each other out of mutual admiration, respect, and growth. Each partner possesses emotional strength, independent identity, and an unshakable sense of self-worth. Together, they empower rather than exploit each other. They enhance rather than diminish. In Nietzsche's philosophy, this is the highest form of love, love that elevates both individuals to their greatest potential, never tearing them down to bolster one's ego or dominance. Nietzsche offers us practical steps toward this kind of love. First, he emphasizes ruthless self-honesty. Confront yourself daily. Question your motives relentlessly. Notice when your behavior is driven by a desire for control or validation, and challenge it. Ask yourself regularly, am I loving or am I trying to prove my worth? Am I truly connecting, or am I trying to dominate emotionally? Self-awareness is painful but essential. Without it, you'll remain enslaved to hidden drives, always confused and unsatisfied. Second, cultivate self-reliance. Develop your passions, build emotional resilience, and pursue your dreams independently. Nietzsche urges you never to depend solely on a relationship for happiness or identity. Your strength must come from your own sense of purpose. When your identity is secure, your love becomes genuine because you no longer love out of need. You love out of choice. Third, Nietzsche advises choosing relationships consciously. Avoid being drawn unconsciously into toxic patterns of dominance or submission. Observe potential partners carefully. Are they seeking genuine connection, or do they crave validation and control? If you recognize power games early, step back immediately. You cannot build authentic love on unhealthy foundations. Finally, Nietzsche insists you must become comfortable with uncertainty. Love inherently carries risks, emotional vulnerability, the possibility of loss or rejection. If you fear these risks too much, you'll revert to power games for protection. Nietzsche tells us to embrace uncertainty courageously, accept vulnerability as the price of authentic intimacy. True power, paradoxically, comes from not fearing loss at all. If you can love without attachment to outcomes, you'll finally break free from manipulative cycles of power. Nietzsche warned us harshly, she wants power, not love, but not to disillusion us. He warned us to awaken us, to guide us toward authentic connections and emotional freedom. Love, as Nietzsche ultimately envisioned it, transcends power struggles entirely. It becomes a journey of mutual self-overcoming, an act of continuous growth, courageous vulnerability, and genuine respect. You now have the choice. You can stay trapped in games of power and resentment, or you can heed Nietzsche's warnings and free yourself. Choose mastery over manipulation. Choose authenticity over illusion. Choose real connection over hidden control. Because in the end, Nietzsche wanted only one thing for you: authentic love, free, courageous, and undeniably powerful.